Wildhorse, it's Lindsay. Welcome back. So my friend Heather had asked me a couple of weeks ago how to really do an eyeshadow look because it's not something that she's comfortable with. She's really not sure where to start. And it really kind of gave me this idea to do a whole series on back to basics. And so what I'm going to do with this series is just really go back to the beginning and show you some ways that you can take some very simple products and turn them into something that looks like you put a lot of effort into it. Looks like you've really learned how to do your makeups. So what I'm going to do with this first back to basics video is I'm going to take a very simple product, something that we probably have all purchased at the drugstore, and that is an eyeshadow trio. This one is from Wet n Wild and it is called Silent Treatment. And this is just a very inexpensive palette. It's a little less than $3. If you have some brushes, and I'm going to show you some affordable brushes, I'm going to show you how you can get kind of an advanced eye look with this particular palette. If there are back to basics videos or techniques that you want to learn, more simple eye looks, leave me a comment below, let me know what your suggestions are, and we'll just do a whole series of getting back to basics. So what I'm going to show you today is how to get this eye look with this palette, and you're only using 3 colors. The way that I achieved this look with this palette is with the brushes that I used, because really in makeup application, a lot of it comes down to not the products that you use, but the method of application. And this isn't something that you can just learn overnight. So the brushes that I'm going to be using today, I'm actually going to be using 5 different brushes. Now, the next video that I do, I'm going to do a much more simple look. I'll show you how to do this a little bit easier, but this was specifically something that was requested that I do, so I thought I would just jump right in with this one first. So there are 5 different brushes that I'm going to use. These are all affordable brushes, or you can find versions of these that are very affordable, and you don't have to use these particular brushes. Really, any brush that has this kind of application method will work. So the first brush that I'm going to use is kind of a big paddle brush. It's very wide. You can see compared to my finger that it's about the width of my finger. I just did this look, so it's got the powder all over it. But it's very kind of soft. And what you want to look for when you look for a brush like this is when you rub it on the back of your hand, there's a lot of give. You want this to be a very soft brush. This one is from Coastal Scents, which I will leave a link to the Coastal Scents website down below. This is not sponsored. I don't get anything at all if you click the link. It is just a direct link to their website, and I'm sorry I don't have a discount code or anything like that, but these are very, very affordable brushes. This is BRBSO3, and I will have this listed in the description down below with a link to this brush if you'd like to pick it up. The second brush that I'm going to use is a fluffy blending brush, and there are so many different ones of these out on the market. My favorite one that I'm using currently is from Real Techniques. I don't know why that just left my head. This one is from Real Techniques. There are just a bunch of other ones. This one is from Terramere. It's a little bit more expensive. A lot of brushes have these kind of things on there. This one is from Tarte, which has a double-ended with that flat side and the fluffy blending side. You really just want something that is going to be fairly small and tapered, that's going to be very, very soft and have a whole lot of give. This one you can find at Ulta. It is a little bit pricier, but there are all sorts of different versions out there. The next brush that I'm going to use, I don't have actually a whole lot of versions of this, but there are all different types that you can use. And what you're looking for is you're looking for something that is just very flat. This is a Kat Von D brush that came in a set. You could also use a flat angled brush. You could use a pencil brush. Really what you're looking for is, this is an e.l.f. brush. You're looking for something that is small that you can draw a line with. So you can draw a precise line with that eyeshadow. Then I'm going to be using another sort of fluffy blending brush. This one is also from Real Techniques. You can see that it is a bit wider. You could use this brush instead of this brush. There are all different things that you could use, but I just like this one because it is a bit flatter, and so it gives me a little bit more control over where I'm placing the shadow. You could also use, you know, a flat brush like this. This one is from Royal and Langnickel. This one is from Bean Gauche, you know, and it's a smaller flat brush. But what you're looking for is you're just looking for something that's smaller and flat that will allow you, you know, a little bit less give than that fluffy blending brush. And then the final brush that I'm going to use is another flat brush, and you can see that this one is much smaller and much denser than that first one that I'm going to use. And this one is also by Coastal Scents, and I will have all these brushes that I'm using today listed below. And what you're looking for something like this is you're looking for something with a very nice flat edge that's very dense, because what you're going to use it for is to actually press shadow on. So this is not your basic beginner look. There are some terminology that I'm going to use as far as putting on the eyeshadow that's going to really help you get this super well-defined look. When I talk about a transition shade, and I'm sure that you've heard that term thrown all over the place, it's not necessarily something that you have to do. If you are a lady like me with hooded eyes, it's something that you really want to do, because what a transition shade is going to do is it's going to add depth to your eye. It's going to make your eye have a little bit more definition. If you don't have a crease that's visible, like for example, when I close my eyes, you can see my eyeshadow look very nicely. When I open my eyes, you can't really see my lid at all. So if I do what most people do and I just blend into the crease, you're not going to see it at all. So when you're talking about a transition shade, what you're talking about is you're talking about creating that crease, deepening up your crease, or like if you have hooded eyes, faking a crease. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that today, even though it's not a basic technique, because if you are a girl with hooded eyes like me, you are absolutely going to love the addition of a transition color. So with these 5 brushes and this little $3 trio from the drugstore, I'm going to show you how to create this look. So let's jump right into the tutorial. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to prime my eyes. And when you're talking about using drugstore eyeshadows, it's always a really good idea to use a white base, because it'll make your colors pop even more. So I'm going to be using the NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw some of this on. And then I'm going to blend it out with my finger. Now this is very, very tacky feeling. It doesn't blend really amazingly because it is very creamy, but it's going to give you a wonderful base. And if you have a lot of discoloration to your eyes, or your eyeshadows really don't pop, you could make this even wider than what I just did, and it'll make your colors pop even more. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Coastal Scents brush, that big sort of flat paddle brush, and I'm going to go into the lightest shade in my palette, and I'm going to sweep that all over my lid from brow to my lash line. And I don't really need this to be super pigmented or dark. Basically what I'm doing is I'm giving myself a nice base on top of that primer, and this will make my shadows blend better and just really overall work a whole lot better. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that fluffy blending brush, the Real Techniques one that we talked about, and I'm going to go into the medium shade of the palette. And again, this works with, you know, any palette that is like this. And what I'm going to do is, if you do not have hooded eyes, you want to blend this in your crease. If you have hooded eyes like me, you want to go a little above your crease. So kind of what I do is I tap a little bit on the area, and then I just start blending. And again, we don't want a super wash of color here. This is just sort of creating a transition shade. If you do not have hooded eyes, you can actually skip this step. If you have hooded eyes, I would really never skip this step because this is what's going to add depth to your eyes and really decrease the look of that hood that you have on your eye. So I'm just really blending that in. And like I said, because I have hooded eyes, I'm going a little above my crease. If you don't have hooded eyes, stay in your crease. I'm also, when I get to the outside, I'm kind of sweeping up just a little bit because that will also give lift to my eyes. Now, since I'm going to also use this as liner, I actually like to do this step next. And I'm going to take that super flat brush and I'm going to go into the darkest shade of this palette, as long as I don't drop it, that is. And I'm just tapping my brush in there, and I'm actually going to line my lower lash line with this. Now, don't think that you have to do this all in one sweeping step. As you can see, I kind of start and I'm making very small brush strokes so that I stay right close to my lash line. Now, if you do not have hooded eyes, you can stop here. If you have hooded eyes, what I like to do is go ahead and put like a little stamp on each side with this brush that will give me my line that I really want to stay with. Now, I'm going to take this fluffy blending brush. This is another Real Techniques brush. I'm going to go back into that darkest shade, and I'm going to put that just on the outer corner of my eye, and I'm tapping. I'm not rubbing, I'm tapping. Then I'm going to get just a tiny bit more on the very tip of the brush, and I'm going to blend that into my crease. And I'm going to blend that outer corner. This is what's referred to as the outer V. If you hear somebody talk about they put this in the outer V, and then I like to kind of blend a little bit down into that lower lash line just to smooth that out. Now I'm stopping with that color about where my pupil ends. I'm not going any further into my eye because otherwise it's going to make my eye look too deep set, and that's not really what I want. I want my eye to look bright and open, and so take that about over as far as where your pupil ends. And really spend the time to just blend that out. And then if you want to, you can take that same brush that you did with that transition shade and you can kind of smooth that edge out. I'm not really putting more product on the brush, I'm just barely tapping it in to just kind of blend that outer edge up. And now I'm going to take that flat brush, the denser one that I told you about, and I'm going to go back into that lightest color of the palette. And I'm going to get, you know, a good amount of powder on there, and then I'm going to pat this onto the rest of my lid. Now you can see that even though we had put this all over our lid, this was sort of a lighter wash because of the brush that we used, and this has quite a bit more color because we're patting it on. And I'm also patting over into that darkest shade to kind of blend those edges out a little bit more. And that's just a really super simple way to use the trio. Now, another thing that you can do that will really help to open up your eyes and brighten your eyes is you can actually go back into that darkest shade, which I'm going to do right now, and take that dark liner and line my upper lash line. And I have hooded eyes, so I'm just doing a very small line. If you don't have hooded eyes, then you could do a much thicker line. You could do this with regular eyeliner, you know, anything that you wanted to do. That just gives a little bit more definition to your eyes. Now, I always tightline my eyes, and I know a lot of you have asked me a question. I've heard you talking about tightlining. I'm not really sure what it is, so I will show you. I'm going to be using a Coastal Scents Express line, and this is just a pencil. You want to make sure that you have a soft pencil that's not going to pull at your eyes. I also really like to use gel liners for tightlining. But basically what I am going to do for a tightline is I am going to line this part of my eye. It is basically, if you know what your waterline is, right here, this part of your eye, we're doing that on the upper part of your eye. There are a lot of different ways to do this. I am a contact wearer, and it doesn't bother me, but I know for a lot of contact wearers it bothers them, and I know for a lot of people putting something that close to your eye will bother you. So you might want to play around with different techniques and see what works for you. But I just look at the mirror and I'm going back and forth, and I'm just rubbing that up between my lashes. And you can see already the difference. This eye looks a lot more defined. It looks a lot more open. It looks a lot bigger than this eye does. And that's what the purpose of tightlining is. So again, you're just going from corner to corner. And I'm barely putting any pressure. That's why it's good to play around and find a pencil or a gel liner that works for you, that you don't have to put any kind of pressure on. And that just really opens up your eyes. Now you could add a liner on top of this. Definitely add some mascara, and that will give you a lot of, big volume. So I'm going to do that, and I will be right back with you. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions about the brushes or the technique or the trios or anything like that, leave me a comment down below and let me know. Also, if you have any requests for back to basics videos, just let me know. When you're looking for a trio at the drugstore, you don't necessarily have to pick this one up, but this look will work with any trio that has 3 different shades, that has a lighter color, a medium color, and a darker color. So as long as you can find a trio that has these 3 types of shades, no matter what they are, this look will work. Again, thank you guys so much for watching today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.